The stagecoach lurched to a stop in front of the general store in Marysvale, Utah, and Katherine Mae Morrison clutched her sleeping 3-year-old daughter closer to her chest, wondering if she had made the most foolish decision of her entire life. It was late September in 1878, and the autumn air carried a chill that made her pull her worn shawl tighter around both herself and little Emma. The journey from Missouri had taken weeks, and every mile had given Katherine more time to question whether answering that advertisement had been an act of desperation or courage. She was 23 years old, widowed for nearly a year, and so tired of the pitying looks from neighbors who whispered about her situation when they thought she could not hear. The advertisement had been straightforward enough. Rancher seeking wife. Must be hardworking, honest, and willing to build a life in Utah territory. Nathan Cole had written 3 letters to her after she responded, each one more thoughtful than the last. He had been honest about his circumstances, about the ranch that demanded all his time, about the loneliness that came with living miles from town. But nowhere in those letters had Katherine found the courage to tell him about Emma. She stepped down from the stagecoach with the help of the driver, her legs unsteady after so many hours of travel. Emma stirred against her shoulder, those blue eyes opening slowly. "Mama, where are we?" the little girl asked, her voice thick with sleep. "Somewhere new, sweetheart," Katherine said softly, smoothing back Emma's dark curls. "Somewhere that might become home." The main street of Marysvale stretched before them, lined with wooden buildings that looked sturdy despite their weathered appearance. A saloon stood at one end, its doors swinging as a cowboy emerged into the afternoon light. The general store behind her seemed well stocked from what she could see through the windows. A bank, a hotel, a blacksmith shop, all the necessities of a frontier town trying to establish itself in this harsh landscape. "Mrs. Morrison." Katherine turned at the sound of her name and felt her breath catch. The man approaching was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing dusty work clothes and a hat that had seen better days. But it was his face that struck her, weathered by sun and wind yet somehow gentle, with brown eyes that seemed kind even as they took in the sight of her holding Emma. "Mr. Cole," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan Cole stopped a few feet away, his gaze moving from Katherine to the child in her arms and back again. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything Katherine had failed to mention in her letters. She watched his expression carefully, waiting for the anger or disappointment that she had braced herself for during the entire journey. "You did not mention you had a daughter," Nathan said finally, his voice neutral. Katherine lifted her chin, finding strength she did not know she possessed. "No, I did not. And I understand if you want to send us right back on that stagecoach. I should have been honest from the start. Emma's father died in a farming accident 14 months ago. I tried to make it work, tried to keep the farm going, but I could not do it alone. The bank took everything. I had nowhere else to turn." She was rambling now, all the practiced explanations tumbling out in a rush. "She is a good girl, quiet and well-behaved. She does not eat much, and I can work twice as hard to make up for the extra burden. I am a good cook, and I can handle livestock. I grew up on a farm. I can earn my keep and hers too. I just needed a chance, a fresh start where people did not look at us with pity or judgment." Nathan listened to all of this without interrupting, his expression unreadable. Emma had hidden her face against Katherine's neck, sensing the tension in her mother's body. When Katherine finally ran out of words, the silence returned, broken only by the sound of horses moving down the street and the distant ring of the blacksmith's hammer. Then Nathan Cole did something Katherine never expected. He smiled, a slow, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. Then I'm already a father, he said simply. Katherine felt tears spring to her eyes before she could stop them. What? You came here as a male bride already a mother, Nathan continued, stepping closer. That means I am already a father if you will still have me as a husband. A family is not about how it starts. It is about what you build together. You cannot mean that, Katherine whispered, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. You do not know us. You do not know what you are taking on. Nathan reached out slowly, giving Emma time to see his hand coming, and gently touched the little girl's shoulder. What is your name, little one? Emma peeked out from Katherine's neck, her blue eyes wide and curious. Emma, she said softly. That is a beautiful name, Nathan told her. My name is Nathan. I have a ranch just outside of town with horses and cattle and a dog named Rusty who would very much like to meet you. Would you like to see it? Emma looked at her mother for permission, and Katherine managed a nod despite the tears now sliding down her cheeks. I think I would like that, Emma said, her natural curiosity beginning to overcome her shyness. Nathan looked back at Katherine. I wrote those letters because I was tired of being alone. I wanted a partner, someone to share the work and the worries and maybe, eventually, some happiness. The fact that you come with a daughter does not change any of that. If anything, it makes it better. This ranch needs the sound of children. I lied to you, Katherine said, needing him to understand the weight of what she had done. By not telling you, I lied. You were protecting your child, Nathan replied. I understand that, and you told me now before we made any legal promises. That takes courage. He paused, then added, My own mother died when I was young. My father remarried a woman who had 2 children of her own. She loved me like I was hers from the first day. I learned then that family is made, not just born. If you are willing to give me a chance, I would like to try to make a family with both of you. Katherine had steeled herself for rejection, for having to figure out how to survive in a strange town with no money and no prospects. She had not prepared herself for acceptance, for this quiet, steady man who looked at her daughter with kindness instead of resentment. I do not know what to say, she admitted. Say you will come see the ranch, Nathan suggested. No promises yet. Just come see where you might live and we can talk about everything else after. The reverend in town requires a 2-week waiting period before performing marriages anyway. That gives us time to be sure. It was reasonable, more than fair given the circumstances. Katherine found herself nodding. All right. Yes, we will come see the ranch. Nathan's smile widened, and he turned to grab Katherine's 2 small trunks from beside the stagecoach. Everything she and Emma owned fit into those 2 battered containers. It was a sobering thought, but also strangely freeing. They had so little to lose and so much potential to gain. My wagon is just there, Nathan said, nodding toward a sturdy-looking wagon hitched to 2 draft horses. It is about a 40-minute ride to the ranch. Are you up for more traveling, or would you like to rest at the hotel first? We have been resting on that stagecoach for days, Katherine said, finding her voice growing stronger. I would rather see where we might be living. Nathan loaded the trunks into the wagon bed with ease, then helped Katherine and Emma up onto the bench seat. He climbed up beside them and took the reins, and soon they were rolling out of Marysvale toward the mountains that rose in the distance. The landscape was different from Missouri, more rugged and open. Red rocks jutted from the earth in places, and hardy vegetation clung to life despite the harsh conditions. But there was a beauty to it, Katherine thought, a wild and untamed quality that spoke of possibility. Tell me about the ranch, she said as they rode. Emma nestled between them. Nathan seemed happy to talk, his hands steady on the reins. I have about 300 acres with grazing land for cattle and some areas I have been working to cultivate for hay. The house is small, Just 3 rooms right now, but it is solid. I built it myself 5 years ago when I first claimed the land. There is a barn, a chicken coop, and a small smokehouse. I have been doing all the work myself with the help of a couple of ranch hands who come during roundup season. 3 rooms, Katherine repeated, trying to picture it. A main room with the kitchen and living area and 2 bedrooms, Nathan clarified. I have been using one for storage mostly. It would need to be cleaned out, but it could be Emma's room if she wants her own space, or... He trailed off, clearly uncertain about the sleeping arrangements. Katherine felt her cheeks warm. We can discuss all of that later. They rode in silence for a while, Emma pointing out birds and interesting rocks along the way. Nathan answered her questions with patience, never seeming annoyed by her childish chatter. Katherine watched the interactions carefully, looking for any sign of false friendliness, but Nathan seemed genuinely engaged. "Why did you place the advertisement?" Katherine asked eventually. A man with a successful ranch must have had opportunities to marry locally. Nathan was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. Marysvale is a small town. Most of the unmarried women are very young, daughters of the other ranchers and miners. The few closer to my age are either not interested in ranch life or... He paused, choosing his words carefully. There was someone a few years back, a merchant's daughter. We courted for nearly a year. But when it came time to actually commit, she decided she wanted to move to San Francisco instead. Said she could not bear the thought of being stuck on a ranch for the rest of her life. That must have been difficult, Katherine said softly. It was honest, at least, Nathan replied. Better to know before marriage than after. But it made me cautious about local prospects. I wanted someone who knew what they were getting into, someone who wanted this life. That is why I wrote the advertisement. I figured anyone willing to travel this far was serious about starting over. I am serious, Katherine assured him. I want to work. I want to build something stable for Emma. She struggled to put the deeper longing into words. I want to belong somewhere again. Nathan glanced at her, and something in his eyes made Katherine's heart skip. I think I understand that feeling. The ranch came into view as they crested a small hill. It was modest but well-maintained, exactly as Nathan had described. The house was constructed of sturdy wood with a covered porch across the front. The barn was larger than the house, painted red with white trim. Fences marked out paddocks and pastures, and Katherine could see cattle grazing in the distance. "Mama, look!" Emma exclaimed, pointing at her reddish dog racing toward the wagon, barking excitedly. "That is Rusty," Nathan said, pulling the wagon to a stop in front of the house. "He is friendly, I promise." He jumped down and helped Emma down first, and the little girl immediately knelt to greet the enthusiastic dog. Rusty licked her face, making Emma dissolve into giggles, the first truly carefree sound Katherine had heard from her daughter in months. Nathan turned to help Katherine down, his hands strong and steady at her waist. For a moment, they stood close together, and Katherine caught the scent of leather and sage and honest work. Nathan released her quickly, as if aware of the intimacy of the touch, and stepped back. "Let me show you around," he said. The house was clean, Katherine noticed immediately. She had half expected the typical bachelor disorder, but Nathan clearly took pride in his home. The main room featured a stone fireplace, a solid wood table with 4 chairs, and a kitchen area with a cast iron stove. The furniture was simple but well made, and everything was in its place. "I am not much of a cook," Nathan admitted. "I can manage basic meals, but I will not pretend to be skilled in that area. That would be a welcome change if you are as good as you say." "Let me prove it," Katherine offered. "Do you have supplies? I could make supper." Nathan looked surprised but pleased. I have some venison, potatoes, canned beans, some flour and other basics. Then let me cook for you tonight, Katherine said. Consider it a demonstration of my skills. While Nathan went to tend to the horses and show Emma the barn, Katherine explored the kitchen. She found the supplies Nathan had mentioned, along with some dried herbs and a bit of lard. It was enough to work with. She built up the fire in the stove, put coffee on to boil, and set to work preparing a simple but hearty stew. The work was familiar and soothing. This was something she knew how to do, something she could control. As she chopped vegetables and seasoned the meat, Katherine allowed herself to imagine what it might be like to do this every day, to cook in this kitchen, to make this house a home. Nathan and Emma returned as the sun was beginning to set, both of them dusty but happy. Emma chattered about the horses and the chickens and how Nathan had let her gather eggs. "Go wash up," Katherine instructed gently. "Supper is almost ready." Nathan showed Emma where the wash basin was, helping her reach it, and then washed his own hands and face. Katherine ladled stew into bowls and sliced bread she found in a covered tin. It was not fancy, but it smelled good, and when they all sat down at the table together, it felt strangely right. "This is delicious," Nathan said after his first bite, and Katherine could tell he meant it. "It is just stew," she demurred. "It is the best stew I have had in 5 years," Nathan insisted. "I was not exaggerating about my cooking skills, or lack thereof." Emma ate well, more than she usually did, and Katherine felt some of the constant worry ease. Her daughter looked healthier already, with color in her cheeks from the fresh air and excitement. After supper, Nathan insisted on helping clean up, which surprised Katherine. Her late husband had believed washing dishes was women's work. But Nathan collected the bowls and helped her heat water, working alongside her with easy efficiency. "Emma looks tired," Nathan observed, glancing at where the little girl sat on the floor playing with Rusty. "It has been a long day for her," Katherine agreed. "For both of us." "The bedroom that would be yours is ready," Nathan said. "Clean sheets, everything you need. I will sleep in the barn tonight, give you privacy to settle in." "You do not have to do that," Katherine protested. "This is your home. And you are guests until you decide if you want it to be your home too," Nathan replied. "I want you to be comfortable. No pressure, no expectations. Just time to think." Katherine met his eyes and saw only sincerity there. "Thank you," she said quietly. Nathan showed her the bedroom, which was indeed clean and welcoming. There was a large bed with a colorful quilt, a dresser, and a small window that looked out toward the mountains. Katherine helped Emma change into her nightgown and tucked her into the big bed. "I like it here, Mama," Emma whispered as Katherine kissed her forehead. "Do you?" Katherine smoothed her daughter's hair back from her face. "Nathan is nice, and Rusty is the best dog in the whole world," Emma yawned. "Can we stay? We will see, sweetheart. Go to sleep now." Emma's eyes were already closing. Katherine sat beside her for a few minutes, watching her daughter sleep peacefully for the first time in weeks. The constant travel had been hard on her, and before that, the stress of losing their home had taken its toll. When Katherine returned to the main room, she found Nathan banking the fire in the fireplace. He looked up as she entered. "She is settled?" he asked. Katherine nodded. "Already asleep? Thank you for being so kind to her. You did not have to make such an effort." "It was not an effort," Nathan said. "She is a sweet child." He straightened, wiping his hands on his pants. "Katherine, I want to be clear about something. I meant what I said in town. The fact that you have a daughter does not change my interest in this arrangement. If anything, it makes me more certain." "Why?" Katherine asked, genuinely curious. Nathan moved to look out the window at the darkening landscape. "I am 30 years old. I have spent the last 5 years building this ranch, working until I was too tired to think, telling myself that success was enough. But it is not. Coming back to an empty house every night, eating alone, having no one to share the victories or the setbacks with. It wears on a man. I want a family. I want children. The fact that you already have Emma means we can start building that family right away. She needs a father, and I need purpose beyond just making the ranch profitable. You are offering to raise another man's child, Katherine said, needing him to truly consider what he was saying. Nathan turned to face her. I am offering to raise my child if you will let me. If you decide to stay, if we marry, Emma becomes mine in every way that matters. I will love her and protect her and provide for her just as I would for any child born to us. That is not a burden. That is a gift. Katherine felt tears threatening again. She had been prepared to beg, to negotiate, to promise anything to secure safety for her daughter. She had not been prepared for this, for a man who saw Emma as an asset rather than a liability. I do not know what I did to deserve this kindness, she whispered. You survived, Nathan said simply. You kept going even when things were hard. You protected your daughter and made impossible choices to give her a better life. That is not something that deserves punishment. That is something that deserves respect. The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Finally, Nathan cleared his throat and moved toward the door. I will be in the barn if you need anything. Sleep well, Katherine. Good night, Nathan. After he left, Katherine stood in the quiet house for a long time, trying to process everything that had happened. She had stepped off that stagecoach expecting rejection and had instead found acceptance. She had braced for judgment and had been met with understanding. It seemed too good to be true, and yet Nathan's words had rung with honesty. Katherine prepared for bed slowly, washing in the basin of water Nathan had left for her and changing into her nightgown. When she slipped into bed beside Emma, her daughter instinctively curled against her, seeking warmth and comfort even in sleep. We might be all right, baby girl, Katherine whispered into the darkness. We might actually be all right. The next morning, Katherine woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of coffee. She sat up carefully, trying not to wake Emma, and realized that Nathan must have come in to start the fire and put coffee on. It was a thoughtful gesture, and Katherine found herself smiling as she dressed quickly. She found Nathan in the barn, already at work mucking out stalls. He looked up as she approached, wiping sweat from his forehead despite the morning chill. You did not have to start breakfast, he said. I did not mean to wake you. You did not, Katherine assured him. I am an early riser anyway. What needs to be done? Nathan leaned on his pitchfork, studying her. You just arrived yesterday. You do not need to jump right into work. I want to, Katherine said. I want to see what the daily routine looks like. I want to know if I can handle it. All right, Nathan agreed. Let me finish here and I will walk you through everything. Fair warning, it is a lot of work. I am not afraid of work, Katherine told him. She helped where she could, learning the layout of the barn and the names of the various animals. Nathan had 6 horses, 3 of them work horses and 3 for riding. The chickens were Rhode Island Reds, good layers, and Nathan collected eggs every morning. The cattle were out on pasture, but he explained that they would need to be moved to winter grazing areas within the next month or so. Emma woke and joined them, delighted to help feed the chickens. Katherine cooked breakfast while Nathan finished his morning chores, and they all ate together again. It felt domestic and comfortable, like they had been doing this for years rather than just one day. Over the next 2 weeks, a pattern emerged. Katherine learned the rhythms of the ranch, the endless cycle of chores and maintenance. She cooked and cleaned, but Nathan also taught her how to repair tack, how to help with the horses, how to spot health issues in the cattle. He never assumed she could not do something because she was a woman, but he also never left her struggling alone. Emma thrived in the open air and freedom. She followed Nathan everywhere when he let her, chattering constantly and asking 100 questions. Nathan answered every single one with patience, including her in age-appropriate tasks and teaching her about the animals and the land. Katherine watched their bond deepen and felt her own feelings growing more complex. Nathan was everything she could have hoped for in a partner. He was kind, hardworking, and honest. He had a quiet sense of humor that emerged in small moments, making Katherine laugh when she least expected it. He was gentle with Emma but also firm when necessary, setting boundaries with care. But more than that, Katherine found herself drawn to Nathan as a man. She noticed the strength in his shoulders as he worked, the careful way his hands handled tools and animals, the rare but devastating effect of his smile. She caught herself watching him more often, wondering what it would be like when they married, when they shared more than just work and meals. On the 12th evening after her arrival, after Emma was asleep, Nathan asked Katherine to come sit on the porch with him. The autumn air was crisp, and the stars were brilliant overhead without the interference of city lights. "We should talk," Nathan said, handing her a cup of coffee. Katherine's heart raced as she accepted the cup and sat in the chair beside his. "All right. The 2 weeks are almost up," Nathan continued. "The Reverend said we can marry this Sunday if we want to, but I want to make sure that is what you want. No pressure, no obligation. If you need more time, or if you have decided this is not right for you, I will help you figure out something else." Katherine cradled the warm cup between her hands, choosing her words carefully. "These have been the best 2 weeks Emma and I have had in a very long time. You have been more than generous, more than kind. I feel like we have found something here that I thought we had lost forever." "But," Nathan prompted gently. "But I want to be honest with you," Katherine said. "I know we agreed this would be a practical arrangement. A partnership for the sake of the ranch and for Emma's stability. But I need to know what you expect from a marriage beyond that." Nathan was quiet for a moment, taking a sip of his coffee. "I expect honesty. I expect loyalty. I expect us to work together to build something lasting." He paused, then added quietly, "And I hope with time for affection, maybe even love. But I know those things cannot be forced. They either grow or they do not." "And if they do not," Katherine asked, needing to understand. "Then we will still have respect and partnership," Nathan said. "That is more than many marriages have. But Katherine, I should tell you that these 2 weeks have meant something to me too. Having you and Emma here, seeing the house come alive, sharing meals and conversation. It has shown me what I have been missing. I already care for Emma deeply. And you." He turned to look at her directly. "I find myself wanting to know everything about you. Where you grew up, what makes you laugh, what dreams you had before life got hard. That is not just practicality talking." Katherine felt warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the coffee. "I want to know those things about you too," she admitted. "I find myself watching you with Emma and thinking how lucky we are, and then I feel guilty because I know my late husband would want me to mourn longer, to remember him better." "You still love him?" Nathan asked, his voice neutral. Katherine considered the question honestly. "I loved who he was when we married, but marriage was harder than I expected. He was not a bad man, but he was not always a kind one either. When he died, I grieved more for Emma losing her father than for my own loss. Does that make me terrible?" "It makes you honest," Nathan said. "And it tells me that you know the difference between a marriage of convenience and a marriage of genuine partnership. I want the latter, Katherine. With you." She turned to face him, seeing the sincerity in his expression even in the dim light from the house. "Then yes. Yes, I will marry you this Sunday. Nathan smiled, that slow, transformative smile that Katherine had come to treasure. "I promise to do everything I can to make you happy. Both of you." "I believe you," Katherine said, and realized she meant it completely. The next few days passed in a flurry of simple preparations. Katherine had no fancy dress to wear, but she carefully mended and pressed her best Sunday dress, a deep blue cotton that brought out the color of her eyes. Nathan rode into town and returned with a bolt of yellow fabric, which he shyly presented to Katherine. "For Emma," he said. "I thought she might like a new dress for the wedding. There is also a woman in town, Mrs. Fletcher, who said she would be happy to help with the sewing if you need it." Katherine was touched by the thoughtfulness. She and Mrs. Fletcher, a cheerful older woman who ran the boarding house, spent an afternoon creating a simple but pretty dress for Emma. Mrs. Fletcher chattered happily the whole time, clearly delighted to have some female company. "That Nathan Cole is a good man," Mrs. Fletcher said as she helped Katherine with the final stitches. "He has been alone too long. It does my heart good to see him settling down with a family." "Does the whole town know?" Katherine asked, amused. "Dear, everyone knows everything in Marysvale," Mrs. Fletcher laughed. "It is both the blessing and the curse of small-town life, but do not worry. People are happy for you both, and that little girl of yours is just precious. I saw her in town with Nathan yesterday, holding his hand like he had hung the moon. It is sweet." Katherine felt a rush of affection for this kind woman who had welcomed her without judgment. "Thank you for all your help, Mrs. Fletcher. Call me Dorothy, please, and it is my pleasure. You come see me any time you are in town, you hear. Women need friends, especially out here." Sunday arrived with clear skies and cool temperatures. Nathan had arranged for the ceremony to take place in the small church at the edge of town. It was a simple building, but someone had decorated it with autumn wildflowers. Katherine spotted Mrs. Fletcher in the front row, along with a few other townspeople she had met briefly. Emma looked adorable in her new yellow dress, her dark curls tied back with a ribbon. She stood beside Katherine, clutching a small bouquet of wildflowers and practically vibrating with excitement. Nathan stood at the front of the church with the reverend, looking nervous but handsome in clean clothes and freshly trimmed hair. His eyes found Katherine's as she walked down the short aisle, and his expression softened into something tender and full of promise. The ceremony was brief, just the traditional vows and the exchange of a simple gold band that Nathan slipped onto Katherine's finger with careful reverence. When the reverend pronounced them husband and wife and told Nathan he could kiss his bride, Nathan leaned in slowly, giving Katherine time to anticipate the moment. The kiss was gentle, almost chaste, but Katherine felt it all the way to her toes. This was real now. This was her life, her choice, her new beginning. "Can I kiss Papa too?" Emma asked loudly, making everyone laugh. Nathan grinned and scooped Emma up, kissing her forehead. "Of course you can, sweetheart." The casual use of Papa made Katherine's eyes sting with tears. Emma had started calling Nathan that a few days ago, and Nathan had accepted it as naturally as breathing. After the ceremony, Dorothy Fletcher had arranged a small celebration at the boarding house with cake and lemonade. It was simple but heartfelt, and Katherine was moved by how welcoming everyone had been. The town's banker congratulated them warmly. The blacksmith's wife gave Katherine a beautiful quilt as a wedding gift. Even the doctor stopped by to offer his best wishes. As the sun began to set, Nathan helped Katherine and Emma into the wagon for the ride back to the ranch. Emma fell asleep between them, exhausted from all the excitement. "Happy?" Nathan asked quietly, his hand finding Katherine's in the space between them. "Yes," Katherine answered honestly. "Are you?" "More than I expected to be," Nathan admitted. I thought this would be a practical arrangement, but somewhere in the last 2 weeks it became something more, at least for me. Katherine squeezed his hand. For me too. They rode the rest of the way in comfortable silence, Emma snoring softly between them. When they reached the ranch, Nathan carried the sleeping little girl inside and helped Katherine tuck her into bed. Then they were alone in the main room, the reality of their marriage suddenly very present. Katherine felt nervous, aware of the bedroom they would now share, of the intimacy that was expected but not yet familiar. Nathan seemed to sense her nervousness. "Katherine, we do not have to rush anything. I know we are married now, but we can take our time getting used to this." "You are always so understanding," Katherine said softly. "But Nathan, I want to be a real wife to you. I want this marriage to be everything it should be." Nathan crossed the room to stand in front of her, reaching up to cup her face gently. "Then we will figure it out together. No expectations, no pressure, just us." He kissed her then, longer and deeper than the chaste kiss in church. Katherine felt herself responding, leaning into him, her hands coming up to rest on his chest. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "We will be all right," Nathan murmured against her forehead. "All three of us. We will figure this out." That night, they shared a bed for the first time as husband and wife. Nathan was gentle and patient, making sure Katherine felt safe and cared for. And later, wrapped in his arms in the darkness, Katherine allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have the happy ending she had stopped hoping for. The weeks that followed brought the hard work of settling into their new life as a family. Katherine took over all the household duties, but she also continued learning the ranch work. Nathan taught her how to ride properly, how to rope cattle, how to handle the more physical aspects of the work. They fell into a partnership that balanced both their strengths. Emma adapted beautifully, treating Nathan as if he had always been her father. She helped with small chores and played endlessly with Rusty, her laughter a constant presence around the ranch. Katherine watched her daughter blossom and felt grateful every single day for the choice she had made. But it was the quiet moments that meant the most to Katherine. The way Nathan would come find her during the day just to steal a quick kiss. The evenings they spent together on the porch after Emma was asleep, talking about everything and nothing. The way Nathan would reach for her in the night, pulling her close as if he needed the contact as much as she did. One evening in late October, Katherine was preparing supper when Nathan came in from checking on the cattle. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, nuzzling her neck. "You smell like bread and cinnamon," he murmured. Katherine laughed, leaning back against him. "I am making apple pie. Mrs. Fletcher gave me some apples from her tree in town." "I have the best wife in Utah Territory," Nathan declared. "Flattery will get you everywhere," Katherine teased. Nathan turned her in his arms, his expression suddenly serious. "Katherine, I need to tell you something," her heart stuttered. "What is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong," Nathan assured her quickly. "I just need you to know that I love you. I know it has only been a few weeks, and maybe it is too soon to say it, but I cannot keep it in anymore. I love you, and I love Emma, and I love the life we are building together." Katherine felt joy bubble up inside her, pure and bright. "Nathan Cole, I love you too. I think I started falling for you the moment you said you were already a father." Nathan kissed her deeply, thoroughly, until Katherine was dizzy with it. When they finally broke apart, Emma's voice came from behind them. "Are you kissing again?" she asked, clearly amused. "Yes, we are," Nathan said, not at all embarrassed. "Is that all right with you?" Emma pretended to think about it. "I guess so. But can we have pie now?" They all laughed, and Katherine served the pie warm from the oven. As they sat together at the table, Katherine looked at her husband and daughter and felt her heart swell with gratitude. She had come to Marysvale as a desperate widow with nowhere else to turn. She had found not just a home, but a family. Winter arrived in earnest by early November, bringing cold temperatures and occasional snow. The ranch work shifted to focus on maintaining the cattle through the harsh season and keeping everything in working order. Nathan taught Katherine how to handle the heavy winter tasks, and they worked side by side every day. One particularly cold afternoon, Katherine was in the barn helping Nathan repair a fence section when Emma came running in, her cheeks red from the cold. "Mama, Papa, there is a family at the house." Nathan and Katherine exchanged glances and hurried to follow Emma back to the house. Sure enough, a dilapidated wagon sat in front, with a thin, exhausted-looking woman and 4 small children huddled in the back. A man with desperate eyes stood beside the wagon. "Sorry to intrude," the man said, his voice hoarse. "We are trying to make it to California, but the weather turned bad and our supplies ran out. We have been traveling for 3 days without food. I do not have money, but I can work for a meal if you will have us." Katherine looked at the children, all of them thin and shivering, and made an immediate decision. "Nonsense. Come inside, all of you. We will get you warm and fed." Nathan nodded his agreement, already moving to help the woman down from the wagon. "You can stay in the barn tonight out of the cold. We will figure out supplies in the morning." For the next hour, Katherine's kitchen became a flurry of activity. She heated water for the children to wash, found extra blankets, and cooked a huge pot of stew with bread and whatever else she could pull together. The family ate like they were starving, which they probably were, and Katherine kept refilling bowls until everyone had their fill. The man, whose name was James, kept trying to offer payment or work, but Nathan waved him off. "Just get your family warm and rested. We can talk about the rest tomorrow." That night, Katherine and Nathan prepared the barn with clean straw and blankets, making it as comfortable as possible. The family settled in gratefully, and Katherine made sure they had extra food for the morning. As she and Nathan walked back to the house, Katherine felt Nathan's arm around her shoulders. "You have a kind heart," he said softly. "We have been blessed," Katherine replied. "It would be wrong not to share that when we can." "This is why I love you," Nathan murmured, kissing the top of her head. In the morning, Nathan helped James get his wagon fixed and gave him detailed directions to the best route to California. Katherine packed food supplies for their journey, enough to get them through several days. When the family left, the woman hugged Katherine tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Bless you both," she whispered. "You may have saved our lives." As Katherine watched them drive away, she felt Nathan's hand slip into hers. "You did a good thing," he said. "We did a good thing," Katherine corrected. "Together." The incident reinforced something Katherine had been feeling for weeks now. This was not just about survival anymore. This was about building a life that mattered, about being the kind of people who helped others, about raising Emma in a home full of love and generosity. As Christmas approached, Katherine threw herself into preparations. She baked and decorated, and with Nathan's help, they cut down a small pine tree to bring into the house. Emma was beside herself with excitement, helping to string popcorn and make paper decorations. On Christmas Eve, after Emma had gone to bed, Katherine gave Nathan his present. She had used some of the fabric left over from Emma's dress to make him a new shirt, carefully embroidered with his initials on the cuff. Nathan looked genuinely moved. "Katherine, this is beautiful. You did not have to do this." "I wanted to," she said simply. Nathan disappeared into the bedroom and returned with a small wooden box. Inside was a delicate silver locket on a chain. Katherine opened it with trembling fingers and found 2 tiny photographs inside. One was of Nathan and the other was of Emma. "When did you get these made?" Katherine asked, her voice thick with emotion. I had them done in town a few weeks ago, Nathan explained. I wanted you to have something to remind you that you are loved, that you both are part of this family now. Katherine threw her arms around his neck, kissing him deeply. I love you so much. Thank you. They made love that night by the light of the Christmas tree, slow and tender and full of the affection that had grown between them. Afterward, wrapped in Nathan's arms, Katherine thought about how much her life had changed in just a few months. She had been so afraid when she stepped off that stagecoach, so certain that she would face rejection and judgment. Instead, she had found acceptance and love. She had found a partner who valued her strength and her vulnerability. She had found a father for Emma who loved her as his own. She had found a home in every sense of the word. The winter passed with its challenges and small joys. There were difficult days when the weather turned brutal and the work seemed endless. But there were also cozy evenings by the fire, lazy Sunday mornings when they stayed in bed late, and countless moments of simple happiness. By the time spring arrived, melting the snow and turning the landscape green, Katherine felt completely settled into her new life. She and Nathan had developed a rhythm, a partnership that worked seamlessly. Emma had grown and thrived, her shy nature blossoming into confidence under Nathan's steady affection. One April morning, Katherine woke feeling queasy. She barely made it outside before being sick, and Nathan found her a few minutes later, pale and shaky. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern etched on his face. Katherine looked up at him, realization dawning. "I think I might be pregnant." Nathan's eyes widened, and then he broke into the biggest smile Katherine had ever seen. "Really, you think so?" "I am not certain yet, but all the signs are there," Katherine said, her own smile growing. "How do you feel about that?" Nathan pulled her into his arms, holding her carefully. "I feel like the luckiest man alive. Emma is going to be so excited to be a big sister." They told Emma that evening, and true to Nathan's prediction, she was thrilled. "Can it be a boy?" she asked hopefully. "I want a brother. We do not get to choose," Katherine laughed. "But either way, you will be the best big sister." The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though Katherine found the summer heat more oppressive than usual. Nathan became even more protective, taking on tasks that Katherine usually handled and making sure she rested regularly. Emma took her role as helper seriously, always ready to fetch things for her mother or help with simple chores. In late October, almost exactly a year after their wedding, Katherine went into labor. Nathan rode to town to fetch the doctor while Dorothy Fletcher stayed with Katherine. The labor was long but uncomplicated, and as the sun rose on a beautiful autumn morning, Katherine gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Nathan held his son with tears streaming down his face. "He is perfect," he whispered in awe. "What should we name him?" Katherine asked tiredly from the bed. Nathan looked at her, then at Emma, who was peeking at her new brother with wide eyes. "What about Samuel? It was my father's name." "Samuel Cole," Katherine said, testing it out. "I love it." Emma reached out a careful finger to touch Samuel's tiny hand. "He is so small." "Can I help take care of him?" "Of course you can," Nathan assured her. "You are his big sister. He is going to need you to teach him everything." The first weeks with a newborn were exhausting, but Katherine had never been happier. Nathan was an involved father, taking turns walking the floor with Samuel at night and changing nappies without complaint. Emma was gentle and loving with her baby brother, always wanting to help. One evening when Samuel was about 6 weeks old, Katherine found Nathan on the porch with the baby sleeping against his chest. She settled into the chair beside them, and Nathan reached for her hand. "I was just thinking," Nathan said quietly, "about how different my life is now compared to a year ago. If someone had told me then that I would have a wife and 2 children and be this happy, I would not have believed them." "I feel the same way," Katherine admitted. "I was so scared when I came here. I thought I was taking the biggest risk of my life." "And now?" Nathan asked. "Now I know it was not a risk at all," Katherine said. "It was a chance for something better, something real, and I would make the same choice 1,000 times over." Nathan leaned over Samuel to kiss her gently. "I love you, Katherine Cole. I love you too." As the years passed, the Cole family continued to grow and thrive. The ranch prospered under their joint management, expanding slowly but steadily. Emma grew into a capable young woman who could rope and ride as well as any ranch hand. Samuel was followed by a daughter, Alice, and then another son, Robert. Katherine never forgot that moment of stepping off the stagecoach, terrified and hopeful in equal measure. She never forgot Nathan's words that had changed everything. "Then I'm already a father." Those words had been a promise, and Nathan had kept that promise every single day. He loved Emma as completely as he loved the children born to them. He treated all 4 children with equal affection and care, never making any distinction about their origins. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Nathan surprised Katherine with a new house. It was still modest by some standards, but it had 6 bedrooms and a large kitchen, with a proper dining room and a parlor. He had been building it slowly over the past 2 years, working on it whenever he had spare time. "You deserve a real home," Nathan said as he carried her over the threshold, their 4 children laughing and running through the empty rooms. "Something built just for us." Katherine looked around at the space that would hold their family, at the care evident in every board and nail, and felt tears of gratitude. "This is already a real home, because you are in it." Emma married a young rancher when she was 21, a kind man named Daniel Morrison who Nathan thoroughly approved of. At the wedding, Emma pulled Katherine aside. "I want to thank you," Emma said, her eyes bright with tears, "for everything you did to give me this life. For being brave enough to bring us here." "I did not do it alone," Katherine reminded her. "Your papa Nathan is the one who made this family possible." "I know," Emma said. "I am so grateful for him. But Mama, you were the one who took the first step. You were the one who refused to give up." "That is what I hope I can be like when I have my own children someday." Katherine hugged her daughter tightly, watching over her shoulder as Nathan danced with Alice and Samuel tried to teach Robert the steps. This was her family, built from courage and choice and love. As more years passed, the Cole Ranch became known throughout the territory as one of the finest family operations around. Katherine and Nathan worked it together until their children were old enough to take on more responsibility. They became pillars of the Marysvale community, known for their generosity and willingness to help neighbors in need. They never forgot the struggling family they had helped that cold winter day, and they made it a practice to always offer assistance to travelers or neighbors who fell on hard times. The Cole Ranch became a place where people knew they could find help if they needed it, where no one was turned away hungry or cold. Emma and Daniel built a ranch of their own just a few miles away, and Emma gave Katherine and Nathan their first grandchild, a little girl named Katherine after her grandmother. Samuel followed his father into ranching, while Alice surprised everyone by developing a talent for healing and becoming the town's assistant to the doctor. Robert, the baby of the family, turned out to have a head for numbers, and eventually took over managing the ranch's finances and business dealings. On a warm summer evening when Katherine was 45 years old, she sat on the porch of their home with Nathan beside her, watching the sun set over the land they had built their life on. Their children were grown now, making their own ways in the world, but they all still gathered for Sunday dinners whenever possible. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked, his hand finding hers as naturally as breathing. "Everything," Katherine said. How far we have come. How different things could have been. Do you ever regret it? Nathan asked. Answering that advertisement, Katherine turned to look at him, this man who had become her entire world. His hair was gray now, his face more lined than it had been, but his eyes still held the same kindness that had drawn her in from the very beginning. Not for a single moment, she said firmly. You gave me everything I had stopped believing I could have. You gave me love and partnership and a family. You gave Emma a father who cherished her. You gave me a reason to believe in happy endings again. Nathan raised her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. You gave me just as much. Before you, I was just existing, going through the motions. You and Emma, you made me understand what I had been missing. You made this house a home. You made my life worth living. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to emerge, the evening sounds of the ranch settling around them. From inside the house came the sounds of their grandchildren playing, Emma having brought her family for a visit. We did well, did we not? Katherine said softly. With our family, with our life. We did better than well, Nathan replied. We did exactly what we set out to do. We built something lasting, something that will continue long after we are gone. Katherine leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. I love you, Nathan Cole, today and always. I love you too, Katherine. Thank you for taking a chance on me, on us. Thank you for being brave enough to step off that stagecoach and into this life. Thank you for being the man who saw a male bride with a child and said you were already a father, Katherine replied. That was the moment I knew everything would be all right. As the years continued to pass, Katherine and Nathan grew old together, surrounded by the family they had built and the love they had nurtured. They faced the challenges of aging with the same partnership that had carried them through everything else. When Nathan's joints began to ache from decades of hard work, Katherine was there to rub liniment into them and make sure he rested. When Katherine's eyesight began to fail, Nathan was there to read to her in the evenings and guide her steps. Their children remained close, all of them settling within a day's ride of the home ranch. The Cole family became something of a dynasty in the territory, known for their integrity and their commitment to each other and their community. The grandchildren grew up hearing stories of how their grandmother had arrived as a male bride with a small child, and how their grandfather had welcomed them both with open arms. On their 25th wedding anniversary, the entire family gathered for a huge celebration. All 4 children were there with their spouses and children, and it seemed like half the town showed up as well. Dorothy Fletcher, now quite elderly herself, made a special cake. The reverend who had married them gave a blessing. There was music and dancing and laughter that rang through the evening air. At one point, Katherine found herself watching Emma dance with her teenage daughter, Samuel teaching his sons how to properly lead a partner, Alice laughing with her husband, and Robert playing fiddle for the gathering. She felt Nathan's arm slip around her waist. Look what we made, he murmured in her ear. Look at all of this. It is pretty wonderful, is it not? Katherine agreed. You are pretty wonderful, Nathan said, turning her to face him. And I would like to dance with my beautiful wife, if she will have me. Katherine let Nathan lead her into the dance, their steps practiced from years of dancing together. They might not have been as spry as they once were, but they moved together with the ease of long partnership. Do you remember our wedding? Katherine asked as they swayed to the music. Every detail, Nathan confirmed. You wore a blue dress and Emma wore yellow. You looked terrified and hopeful at the same time. I remember thinking that I would do whatever it took to make sure you never regretted choosing me. You succeeded, Katherine assured him. Beyond my wildest dreams, you succeeded. When Katherine was 53 years old, She fell ill with pneumonia during a particularly harsh winter. For several frightening days, Nathan refused to leave her side, sitting beside her bed and holding her hand through the fever and chills. Their children took turns helping care for her, and Emma moved back into the house temporarily to manage the household. When Katherine finally emerged from the illness, weak but recovering, the first face she saw was Nathan's. He looked exhausted, his face drawn with worry. "You scared me," he said hoarsely. "I thought I might lose you." Katherine reached up to touch his face with a trembling hand. "I am not ready to leave you yet. We have too much left to do." Nathan caught her hand and pressed it to his lips. "We have all the time in the world. Just please do not scare me like that again." "I will do my best," Katherine promised with a weak smile. Her recovery took weeks, but Nathan was patient, helping her rebuild her strength slowly. It was a reminder of their mortality, of the fact that their time together was precious and finite. But instead of making them fearful, it made them more determined to appreciate every day they had. They began taking more time for themselves, leaving the ranch in their capable children's hands for short trips into town or just quiet days together. They spent hours talking about their memories, about the things they were grateful for, about the future they hoped their children and grandchildren would have. One particularly meaningful conversation happened on a spring afternoon, when they were sitting by the creek that ran through their property. Katherine had just finished reading a letter from a great-niece back in Missouri, and she was struck by how different her life might have been if she had not answered Nathan's advertisement. "You think we were meant to find each other?" she asked Nathan. "Or was it just chance?" Nathan considered the question seriously. "I think it was a little of both. Chance brought you to Marysvale, but choice kept you here. You chose to trust me, to build a life with me. I chose to see Emma as a gift rather than a burden. We chose each other, over and over again in 100 small ways." "I like that," Katherine said. "The idea that we chose this, that it was not just fate or luck but our own decisions that made this life. It makes it more meaningful, does it not?" Nathan agreed. "To know that we built this together, intentionally." As the years progressed, Katherine and Nathan settled into a peaceful old age. They watched their grandchildren grow and begin having children of their own. The ranch continued to prosper under Samuel's management, with Robert handling the business side and all the children contributing in their own ways. Emma's ranch was thriving. Alice had become a respected healer throughout the territory, and all 4 children had made marriages based on love and respect, just as their parents had. On a clear autumn day, 27 years after Katherine had first stepped off that stagecoach, she and Nathan sat on their porch watching their great-grandchildren play in the yard. Nathan was 78 now, and Katherine was 70. They moved more slowly than they once had, but their minds were still sharp and their love was still strong. "You remember what you said to me the day we met?" Katherine asked, even though she knew he did. It was a story they had told many times over the years. Nathan smiled, his weathered face crinkling. "I said, then I'm already a father." "That was the moment I fell in love with you," Katherine confessed. "Right then, standing in the street in Marysvale with Emma in my arms and no idea what would happen next. You looked at us and saw a family instead of a problem. How could I not love you for that?" "I saw what I wanted most in the world," Nathan said simply. "A chance to build something real, to love and be loved, to have a family. You and Emma, you offered me all of that from the very beginning." "We had a good life, did we not?" Katherine asked, needing to hear him say it. "The best," Nathan assured her. "The absolute best, and it is not over yet, we still have time." "Promise me something," Katherine said, squeezing his hand. "Promise me that no matter what happens, you will remember that I loved you, that every day with you was a gift." "I promise," Nathan said solemnly. "And you promise me the same, that you will remember how much I loved you, how grateful I was for every moment we shared." "I promise," Katherine whispered. They sat together as the sun set, watching their legacy play out before them in the form of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They had started with a desperate letter and a leap of faith. They had built an empire of love and family that would last long after they were gone. Nathan passed away peacefully in his sleep 2 years later, at the age of 80. Katherine woke to find him beside her, looking peaceful, and she held his hand and wept for the loss of the man who had been her partner, her love, her best friend for nearly 3 decades. The funeral was enormous, attended by what seemed like half the territory. Person after person shared stories of Nathan's kindness, his generosity, his integrity. But it was Emma who spoke the words that meant the most to Katherine. "My father loved us," Emma said, standing before the gathered crowd with tears streaming down her face. "Not because he had to, but because he chose to. He saw my mother and me as a gift, not a burden. He welcomed us into his life and his heart without hesitation. He taught me what a good man looks like, what a good father should be, and he did it every single day until his last." Katherine lived for 3 more years after Nathan's passing, surrounded by her loving family. She never remarried, content with the memories of the love she had shared. She spent her remaining time teaching her great-grandchildren to bake, telling stories about the old days, and making sure everyone knew the story of how she had come to Marysvale as a male bride already a mother, and how Nathan Cole had said he was already a father. When Katherine passed away at the age of 73, she was buried beside Nathan on a hill overlooking the ranch they had built together. The headstone was simple but perfect. Katherine and Nathan Cole, who chose each other and built a family through love. At her funeral, Katherine's great-granddaughter, a young woman named Kate, read from a journal Katherine had kept. The entry was from the night of her wedding nearly 30 years earlier. "Today I married Nathan Cole," the entry read. "I came here as a desperate widow with a young child, expecting rejection and judgment. Instead, I found acceptance and love. Nathan looked at Emma and said he was already a father. In that moment, he gave us both a gift I can never repay. He gave us a family. He gave us a home. He gave us hope. I do not know what the future holds, but I know that whatever comes, we will face it together. And that is more than I ever dared to dream of." Kate looked up from the journal, tears in her eyes. "My great-grandmother taught us all something important. She taught us that family is not always about blood. It is about choice. It is about showing up for each other. It is about love that does not count the cost or keep score. She and Nathan built something beautiful from nothing but courage and compassion. That is the legacy they left us, and I hope we can all honor it." The Cole family continued to thrive for generations, always remembering the story of their matriarch and patriarch who had built their empire on love and faith. The ranch stayed in the family, passed down through the generations. And every child born into the family grew up knowing the story of Katherine, who came as a male bride already a mother, and Nathan, who said he was already a father. Their love story became legend in Marysvale and the surrounding territory. It was told as an example of how goodness and compassion could change lives, how taking a chance on love could build something lasting. Young couples starting their own lives together looked to Katherine and Nathan's story for inspiration and hope. The house Nathan built for Katherine stood for over 100 years, eventually becoming a historical site that tourists came to visit. Inside, carefully preserved, were letters and photographs and journals that told the story of the Cole family. But the most treasured artifact was a simple silver locket on a chain. Inside were 2 faded photographs, one of Nathan Cole, and one of Emma as a little girl. The inscription on the display case read, "This locket was given to Katherine Morrison Cole by her husband Nathan on their first Christmas together. It symbolizes the family they chose to create, built on love rather than blood. The Coles showed us all that family is made by the heart, and that true love sees possibilities where others see problems. Their story reminds us that one act of compassion, one moment of choosing love over fear, can change the course of countless lives." And so the story of Katherine and Nathan Cole lived on, a testament to the power of choosing love, to the beauty of unexpected families, and to the truth that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step off a stagecoach into an unknown future, trusting that love will find a way. Their great-great-grandchildren still gathered at the ranch for holidays, still told the story of how it all began. And every time, when someone asked what made Katherine and Nathan's love story so special, the answer was always the same. She came as a male bride, already a mother, scared and desperate and brave. And he said, "Then I'm already a father." That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment a family began. That was the moment love chose courage, and courage chose love, and from that choice came everything we have today. The story of Katherine and Nathan Cole became more than just family history. It became a reminder that the best families are built on choice and love, that the greatest legacies are created by everyday kindness, and that true love does not count the cost, but simply gives freely. They had taken a chance on each other in that dusty town of Marysvale, Utah in 1878, and from that chance had grown a love that would echo through generations, inspiring countless others to choose love, to choose family, to choose hope even when the future seemed uncertain. And every autumn, when the leaves turned gold and the air carried a chill, someone from the Cole family would stand on that porch Nathan had built and remember. They would remember the stagecoach arriving with a frightened young woman and her small daughter. They would remember Nathan's words that changed everything. They would remember the family that grew from that moment of pure compassion. Katherine and Nathan's love story was complete. It had a beginning full of fear and hope. It had a middle full of hard work and growing love. And it had an ending full of peace and gratitude, and the knowledge that they had built something beautiful that would last long after they were gone. They had found each other across the distance, through letters and faith. They had chosen each other despite the complications and uncertainties. They had built a family that became a dynasty, a love that became a legend. And through it all, they had proven that the best love stories are not about perfection, but about two people choosing each other every single day, building something beautiful from hope and courage and unwavering commitment. The Cole Ranch still stands, a testament to their love. The family still gathers, honoring their memory. And the story is still told, reminding new generations that love is always worth the risk, that family is always worth fighting for, and that sometimes the most beautiful futures grow from the bravest leaps of faith. Katherine Morrison came to Marysvale, Utah in September of 1878 as a male bride, already a mother, terrified and hopeful in equal measure. Nathan Cole met her at that stagecoach and saw not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be treasured. He said he was already a father, and in saying those words, he created a family that would span generations, a love story that would inspire countless others, and a legacy of compassion and courage that would never be forgotten. And that, in the end, was everything. Their story was complete, their love was eternal, and their legacy would live on forever in the hearts and lives of all those they touched. They had found each other against all odds, chosen each other despite all obstacles, and built a love that proved beyond any doubt That family is not about blood or biology, but about the choices we make and the love we give freely, without reservation, without counting the cost. Katherine and Nathan Cole lived a beautiful life together, and when their story ended, it ended not with sorrow but with gratitude for a love well lived, a family well built, and a future well secured. They had taken a chance on each other, and that chance had become the greatest gift either of them could have imagined. Their story was over, but their love would echo through time, inspiring others to be brave, to be kind, and to choose love even when it seems impossible. That was their gift to the world, and it was more than enough.